You talked about kind of, can't even remember how you phrased it now, but essentially like working at it when you're not getting the big wow moments, the getting all the no's.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that kind of links on to how do we maintain habits? How do we stick at habits? How do we have a practice? And how do we have that practice if we're not getting the exact results that we want in the exact way that we expect? That's a big question.
There's a lot of different elements to that question, but what I would say is, first of all, you have to create one habit at a time. You can't go from, right, I don't feel very connected. I'm going to do all the things every day. I mean, it's just not realistic. None of us are going to be able to do that. You have to start at the very beginning and see it like a journey because it's not got an end destination. I do class myself as incredibly spiritual. It's my life, but I'm not at the end of that life. Therefore, I am not at the end destination. There is always growth and there is always learning and there's always something else. So you have to be open to that before you even start, because if you want to get to an end goal, you're going to be disappointed because there ain't one. The end goal is leaving this mortal coil from a place of I did really fucking well. I learned the most I could learn. I did the best I could do and feeling at peace with that. So first off, that like if you want an end destination, there ain't one. And even if you niche it down and go, well, I want to be like a Reiki master, for example, seeing as though we're talking about Reiki, yeah, you can train in a year to or 2 years to be a Reiki master. You go for it. But if you think that that little piece of paper that says you're a Reiki master because you've done ticked all the boxes makes you the best Reiki master, well, we know that's not true, don't we? Because experience and years of working in that is going to make you better. There is always going to be growth. So if you're not open to that, don't like you need to work on that first. And then after that, you have to think, what's the one thing that would help me the most right now? Is that 5 minutes of mindful meditation, not sitting down and doing 40 minutes in an on position, not like drinking Blue Lotus tea while you're doing it, literally just connecting with your breath and having 5 minutes where you're just in your own body.
Yeah.
Is that going to serve me best? Is journaling going to serve me best? Is just saying one nice thing to myself a day, is that going to serve me best?
So it's almost like you need to have some self-awareness
Yeah.
to know what to do to help you to get to know yourself.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like that's where you start. And what tends to happen for people is they start with the little thing. And that's what I would say to my clients. I'm like, we'll start here. And it might be, for example, when they wake up in the morning, they say, I am worthy of all the good things that are going to happen to me today. And I choose to see the great things and be grateful for them.
That's
That's
lovely.
it.
So
That's it.
that's a really good example. Starting your day with gratitude, with
Yeah.
a sense of worthiness, and I love that idea. And how do we remember to do it? I mean, I tell you what I've got at the minute is on my phone, my alarm. You know how you can label your alarms. My alarm
Mhm.
is labeled with grateful and abundant. So if I look at my phone when I'm switching my alarm off, I get that little memory. I've also got a post-it note on the inside of my bathroom cabinet. So when I go and get my face wash, it says I welcome and joy. So
Yeah.
that's two little things that I've done before I've even washed my face in the morning.
Yeah.
So how else would you encourage someone to remember to do some of these relatively simple things?
I think it depends how hardcore you want to go, because there are two answers to this question. There's the I'm just going to evolve into this and I'm not in a rush and let's just see where I go. And there's the I need to change this. I want to change this now and I'm going to make it happen. They're two very different energies and they have two very different answers. So let's go with the I want to change it now energy, because there are less people who are in that mindset and more people who are in the I want to change it, kind of let's see how it evolves. So we'll do the other one first. And for that, it's dead easy. You set alarms on your phone for every hour, and you set your alarm to say like joy alarm or grateful alarm. And when your phone goes off, you don't just look at your phone and say, oh yeah, I'm grateful. Oh yeah, I'm joyous. You embody it, because the mind remembers embodiment. The somatic work that goes with that is what cements it as a habit. So when your alarm goes off, you go, what? Yeah, you like do ridiculous things and you jump around the room and you give yourself joy. Or if your gratefulness alarm goes off, you go, oh, God, I'm so grateful for this drink. God, I'm so grateful for my house. I'm so grateful for my kids and my beautiful hair and my car and my life. And you go massively overboard like some cringy bellend, and you cement all of that stuff every single hour, every single day, until it becomes less cringy. And
I
when it
love that
becomes
idea.
less, hey,
I love that idea.
when it becomes less cringy, you turn one alarm off and you remember to do it. Because by that point, you're already conditioned every hour, every hour, every hour. So you turn one alarm off and I don't know, your eight alarms go off, your seven alarms go off. And then when your eighth alarm is about to go off, you go, whoop, and you remember it anyway. And then you turn off another one, and then you turn off another one, and you do that as slow as it takes for you to be able to just remember every hour to go crazy. And then when you've done that, you don't need to go crazy anymore, because in every minute of every day, you're like, I am embodying gratefulness. I am embodying joy. You don't need to remember it because it's who you are. And that is the difference. So that's way number one.
I love that. I'm gonna give that a go.
Amazing. Way number two is you catch yourself, and it's much slower, but you catch yourself. So you wake up in the morning and you go, I am going to be the best version of myself today. I'm going to be grateful. I'm not going to be judgmental, and I'm going to be kind. And then you go about your day. And then the first time that somebody cuts you up on the road and you're like, fuck you. You very well might be like raging in the car, but you catch yourself and you stop and you think, okay,
That
I've
sounds
just
harder. That sounds
I've just it is to start with, but after a couple of days you'd be surprised, because all you're doing is you're rewiring your synapses to go, okay, I've shouted at that person and I might have given them the bird and I might have got a little bit carried away there, and it's okay. And that's all you're doing. You're not saying, now I need to go and apologize and I need to do this and I need to do that and I need to do it differently. You're not doing that, because that is should. And that's judgment. And that's not good enough. That's coming from not good enough energy. What you need to be doing is going, fuck, I was just a bit of a bastard to that guy. Okay, that's okay. I forgive myself. We'll do better next time. That's it. So you start from there.
right.
And I'm not saying you have to catch yourself every single time. In the beginning, you will only remember to catch yourself occasionally. But the more you catch yourself and the more you give yourself permission to have reacted how you did, the more you remember. And the more you remember, the more grace you have for yourself. And the more grace you have for yourself, the less you shout at other people. And the more grace you give to other people, and on and on and on.
So when we were talking earlier, before we started recording, you talked about what happens when people tell you what to do and how
Well,
it can bring up a little bit of a kind of fuck you kind of, I don't
oh,
want
it
to
doesn't bring up a little bit of fuck you.
do.
I have a incredibly strong aversion to being told what to do, to the point where it has got me into trouble. Um, I'm not proud of that. It is what it is. And it is something that I genuinely have to work really hard at. I know that some of that is rooted in neurodivergence. However, as the parent, this is really controversial. As the parent of four neurodivergent children who has neurodivergence herself, and between us, we have every diagnosis more or less that you can think of, including things like synesthesia, which most people haven't even heard of, eating disorders, OCD, autism, ADHD, AuTHD, hypermobility, sensory processing disorder, you fucking name it, we've got it, right? Neurodivergence should not, I don't like the word should. Neurodivergent is not a reason to not do something. It's not a reason to excuse a behavior. I brought up four neurodivergent children who were 1, 2, and 3. So I had 3 children in 2.5 years. They are all neurodivergent. 10 years later, I had my fourth child, who is also neurodivergent. There were rules in our house. There are rules in our house. And my children have always and will always respect each other and me and the rules of our house. It has never been an excuse for any of them to not do something or do something that I didn't want them to do. So the whole me resisting being told what to do is a tricky one because I know that whilst it may well be part of my neurodivergence in some level, that is not a reason for me to allow that to win. I mean, that would be hypocritical of me. So I kind of dismiss that. And I am always working on how do I overcome it? Because like literally, I can want to do something. Like I will want to do it really badly, want to do it. And I'll be like, I've got to do that, 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 I'm going to do it. And I'll plan in my head, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And then when I've got to there, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do it. And if at any point in the ladder between me getting to do it and doing it, if somebody says, have you done that yet? I'm like, fuck you. Like, I'm not doing it now. That you've ruined it now. You've ruined it. You've asked me whether I've done it, and now I can't do it. I can't do it because then I'll have that because then it's like I'm doing it because you've asked me. Do you know what I mean? And interestingly, in a mindset call for coaching this week, I asked this question because it's genuinely something that I struggle with and have got better. But she said, it's the good girl, and it is. I don't want to be the good girl. Like I've been through so much in my life and I was always just a really good girl. I was told I was trying to please people. Like even, if you've ever been in an abusive marriage or an abusive relationship, you bend over fucking backwards to please somebody because you are terrified of the results if you don't. And then when you come out the other side of these years of being the good girl, you're like, fuck this. Fuck this. I ain't good. And it's understanding A, why that comes about, B, what you can try and do about it, and C, having compassion for yourself to go, look, I know this isn't great, but I know why I do it.
Yeah.
Now I've just got to change it. And I think what the lady called Jo said was brilliant for me. Change the language. So the word accountability, I mean, no. I'm not even engaging in that conversation and still very much doing the work around why and how. But what she said is change the word. So change it to devotion.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, now you got me. Like, I like that. Like, and for some people, that word is not going to be the right word, but what works for you, and it's very much the same as like what works for you spiritually. What works for you spiritually may not work for me spiritually. For me, changing that word to devotion. Like, are you devoted to doing that? Yeah, yeah, I am. Yeah. Like, are you going to do that? Is very different to, are you devoted to doing that? Yeah, I am devoted to doing it. Yeah, I'm going to do it. But then just going to me, are you going to do that? No.
Yeah.
And that feels so much different. And again, it's the energy, isn't it? It's like, it's the energy, the accountability thing that are you going to do that is pushy. It's kind of almost borderline aggressive.
Mm.
It's kind of judgmental because it's like you haven't done it yet.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's almost right being in that abusive relationship, being the good girl as one extreme, and then coming out of it and being the rebel as to paraphrase on the as the other extreme, and neither is authentic. And
Yeah,
actually, the authentic is the kind of going, well, do I want to do this?
yeah.
You
I
know,
think I think for me as well, like the work that I've done on myself around this has shown that I I kind of liked identifying with the rebel kind of thing. Like I kind of quite like it. But what I realized is that actually it's not the rebel that I like identifying with it. I like identify like I would say I'm pretty wild, as in feral, as in not like going out getting drunk and partying. I don't mean that kind of wild, although I definitely had my days of doing that. I think throughout my life, I've been wild. I feel wild. And what I mean by that is I don't like being caged. I don't like being put in a box. I like to be free. I like walking barefoot into town. I like wild swimming. I like the wilderness. Like I like that. And I think, again, the language of changing rebel, which is kind of a bit naughty, a bit kind of like doing harm, even because it's fun, that kind of thing, changing the language from rebel to just wild. Like, I can be wild, I can be my wild self and still do the things
yeah,
and still be devoted to doing things. Whereas you can't be the rebel and still do things that you're meant to do. Like if you're a rebel, and somebody says, "Can you do this?" If you're a rebel, you're going to go no. Whereas if you're wild and free and somebody says, "Can you do this?" You go, "Yeah, I can do that."
yeah,
And I think again, it's just a language thing for me. So I'm trying to identify with the wild and free. I got it printed on my cut. I got a Stanley and I got a little charm for my Stanley and it says wild and free on it. So
nice,
I'm trying to identify with that rather than with the rebel thing.
nice.